Yeah.
So we have to understand two things. One is that definitely I'm not at all aware of the body and the mind in the deep sleep. And I'm also not aware of this physical body in dream, because in dream there is a dream body. The dream
Yes.
body is running, the dreamer is knowing that tiger is chasing, I fell down, I'm hurt, but that is the dream body. So even neither in sleep nor in dream, I'm not at all concerned about this physical body. Only when I wake up, the moment I wake up, I identify, my mind identifies with the body, and the moment the identification takes place, even if the mind says, "This is my body," the deluded mind says, "I am the body." And the moment I am the body, then I am born, and whatever is born has to die. There is a birth, birth follows the death. Anything that is born has to die. Whether you take a car, you run the car for 20 years, and after this car takes the birth, it has to die. Phone has to take birth, it has to die. My house takes the birth. We say the custom built home. Okay. What about after a couple of many years? It demands repair, maintenance, and ultimately it dies. Whatever takes birth, there is a universal law I cannot escape, it has to die. So, in a waking state, we understand, we acquire the knowledge that where there is a birth, there is a growth, there is a decay, there is an old age, and there is a death. But if I am not the body, as we experience every day in deep sleep and also in dream, so I don't die. It is only the body. It is only the body that dies. And the body is dying every day. The moment I have taken the birth, aging process starts. I can postpone my aging process by certain chemicals or drugs or herbs, whatever we say in America, but I cannot escape the death of this body. I have to be very clear. Now, what happens? You are listening and learning these principles. It's anyone can listen and learn. Listening and learning and knowing is one thing, understanding is another. Two aspects.
True.
There is an iPhone. It becomes very difficult for me to solve any issue of the iPhone because I have been using the Android phone and my honey has the iPhone. She says there is a problem. And then I look into the Google, I understand the very process, and then I can correct it. I'm not interested in the iPhone. So, what I said, listening and listening by you know it, but you do not understand it. In order to understand that I am not the body, I have to follow a self-discipline, and I have to do the practice. If I don't do the contemplation and reflection, that gives me the understanding, but in order to remove that past impressions, I have to meditate. If I don't meditate, if I don't contemplate and reflect, I simply learn, I have understood, I know that I am not the body, I claim that I understand. Then what happens? That is what you have told me.
Yeah.
You have told me that there was a blood in the stool and there is a panic, there is an anxiety. And you also made a statement that it is not, even if I am not the body, but I have to be into anxiety and fear. Very good, very good. Neighbor house is on fire and you are in panic that you are on fire. So that identification, I don't have an identification with the neighbor's house. So I may be concerned, but I don't get into anxiety or fear. Here I know, I have only the information. I claim that I am the body, I am not the body, but I did not understand it.
Yeah.
Second thing, body. I have to understand this body is constantly aging, growing. I may get into anxiety. Why I have gray hairs? Why I have all the white hairs? I should be in panic. Because I have white hairs, so I should die. I will die today or tomorrow. So it means I have not understood. I have an information, but I did not understand clearly. I did not experience that I am not the body. So when I don't experience I am not the body, anything happens to the body will cause anxiety, fear, failure, frustration, duality, conflict, delusion. Do whatever you want to do. You simply claim that I am not the body. You already made a statement that is full of delusion. Even though I understand that I am not the body, still I was in anxiety, I was in fear.
Yeah.
So it means it is a delusion. And that is why the progress is not taking place. So we simply think, until now in these years, you simply think that I have learned from this beer guy minus contemplation reflection, minus the practice, minus the self discipline, any knowledge. I must have some kind of a discipline. If I don't have that discipline, why discipline? Understand it clearly why I should have a discipline. The impulsive mind, the habitual mind, whether you say impulsive mind, habitual mind, instinctive mind, is the master at present. And it is the worst master. Mind is the worst master in my life. If the mind is the worst master, it constantly triggers those impressions of anxiety, of fear, of duality, of conflict, of delusion. In order to change this mind, which is the worst master, I want to make this mind, which is the worst master, I have to make it a faithful servant. I need a self-discipline. In that self-discipline, I gave you such a simple practice. I said Mangalachara means I enter into an auspiciousness. Second, I gave you the second type of the practice. I gave you Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. But I'm not able to do it. I fail to do it because I'm busy in so many things. And still we think that we will progress. We will not progress. Let me be straightforward and blunt. Do you know that I have been into this Eastern wisdom for the last 45 years? The moment I stepped into United States for the last 20 years, I have not left the practice even on a single day. I need a self-discipline. I don't want to allow the mind to become the master. Wake up at 4 and 4 to 6:30 I check all the aspect. Mind, what are you thinking? And what happens? The mind remains calm and silent and peaceful. Come on, what exactly you want today? So my mind never says it's a bad morning. Every day the state of the mind is little different. Day before yesterday I had a COVID vaccine, and then in the morning there was some heaviness in the body. I said, no, I have to remove the heaviness. Mind, you have experienced it. It took me half an hour, I removed it. I did a couple of the practices, it was removed. I felt totally relaxed. In order to check that, I told you last time that I keep the smartwatch, and the score of my rest and relaxation was 84. 84 is known as an excellent. So every day, now why every day? Be very clear. Eastern wisdom is so logical. It helps you to understand. If you don't understand, but then you commit to these practices, again the understanding will come. So if you are not logical, if you do not contemplate and reflect, if you do not understand, we have a process. Just follow these, which you can say the rituals or some sort of different practices. But those practices should take you maybe for an hour or 2 hours. And here I gave you the practice of 10-15 minutes. Two things: 15 minutes of practice every day multiplied by 30, it's a 450 minute. 450 minutes should be almost 3 to 4 hours in a month. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. What? 4 hours in total in 30 days? Continue further. I'm not interested. No, but I want to explore why I'm not interested. Simple answer: I want to live habitually, impulsively. I am under the control of that mind which is habitual and impulsive. That is why I'm not interested.
Why would someone want to live that way? I don't understand.
Huh? What is
Why would someone want to live that way, habitually and impulsively?
That is the way we have been living since our birth. That is the way the animal mind was a helper in the beginning at the time of the birth. I did not know the language, so I cried. My mom said, "Come on, take the milk." I wet the bed and I cried. That was my sign language coming from this master mind. So that it is a necessary evil in the very beginning, at the time of the birth. This master mind is the helper. But after I grow and I want to be a human being, it becomes a barrier. You ask me any question, I don't know anything. I know I am a very humble uh, person in this field of Eastern wisdom. What I have learned over years from many masters, that is what I'm just expressing it. In order to express, I learn a lot, because people ask me a question, and when I answer it, it gives me a greater understanding. So you asked me first that why it is happening, why it should not happen. Let me answer that question, why it should not happen. If I am born as a full of wisdom, that means at the time of the birth, I am using the intellect to its fullest. But I am totally unconscious. I don't know which parent, where I am born. As I grow older, I raise my self awareness, I develop my individuality, and then I know what needs to be done, what is the choice I have to make.
Okay.
So if I don't make a choice, I am living unexamined life. Should I give you a good word for unexamined life?
Yeah.
Foolishness. I have an intellect. I know this is taking me to a wrong direction, and still I don't want to do it. Still I'm not doing it. Problem is, I know it, and still I'm not doing it. Won't you call it a foolishness? I'm sorry to say, but unexamined life is a life of foolishness.
Oof.
Now, go further. Master says, no, that is what we are going to study from the next week. So, unexamined life, I have an unexamined life. So, in the unexamined life, you have a problem in the body, and you have a panic attacks or anxiety or fear or frustration. Why? It is because I like the body, I love the body, I'm attached to the body, I forget that I'm not the body. Are you getting it? Are you listening?
I am. Could one say that every single problem that one person has is related to the body in one way or another?
Related to the mind, the way the mind responds,
Yeah.
not the body.
Okay.
Because of the mind, I know that here is the body. Because of the mind.
Okay.
So
it's the mind first.
your mind is trying to think otherwise. And that otherwise thinking is also an unexamined life. Problem is this. And why this is not helping you? Because I don't have a self-discipline. Tell me if you have any other question. I don't want to follow it. When I don't want to follow, there is no understanding. So when there is no understanding, at the time the body has a problem and there is no understanding, the mind finds an answer from the impulsive nature. That is why you had an anxiety. That is why you have a fear. That is why your statement is that even though I know that I am not the body, but I have a fear. What a great statement you made.
So that's not a true statement, because if I actually knew, I don't know that. Yeah, I intellectually understand, but I don't know it.
So
There's a difference between understanding something and then knowing something.
you're right. Intellectual
Yeah.
understanding is only the information. Unless I contemplate and reflect again and again, I reach to a point of awareness. That awareness lives with me all the time. All the time. The moment I wake up in the morning until I retire to the bed. That awareness is nothing but your experience. So the intellectual understanding converts into an experiential understanding by a self-discipline, by contemplation and reflection. But even if you take what you are learning today simply as information, it will not work unless you start contemplation and reflection, until you start following a minimum self-discipline. I am telling you, 15 minutes, 450 minutes per month, 4 hours in 30 days. My mind don't remember it. My mind forgets to do the practice. Can you imagine how stronger the impulsive mind is? Even after understanding, I don't want to break it. Because I have time for, can I say something? I want to hurt you. So, can I say, do you have a time for vacation? You have a time for thinking about your dog. You have a time for thinking about your friends. You have a time for thinking about your sexual desire. You don't have a time to think about following a self discipline. Tell me if it is not true.
No, I could be better. I'm not going to argue with you. You're not wrong. I could be better. I'm not consistent with the practice. I'm not.
So, if I am not consistent with the practice, again understand, go back, I wanted to explain you that factor. So when I'm not consistent with the practice, it means my inconsistency is caused by the worst master, impulsive mind. That is the reason. But why the mind is like this? Because I'm living an unexamined life. But what happens when I live an unexamined life, impulsively, habitually, mechanically, unconsciously? This mind picks up likes and dislikes by default. By default. How can you say that? I will prove it here and now. You already told me that I have a blood in the stool. So impulsively, unexamined mind has a strong liking for the body, and that causes the attachment. And if I'm attached to anything or anyone, if that object or person or body hurts, I will definitely be into anxiety. Look at the beauty of our teachers. I don't know anything. It is all coming from the teachings. So, what happens? Unexamined life, I told you it is foolishness. You also agreed that you are not consistent. Being inconsistent is the work of the animal mind, impulsive mind. So, first likes and dislikes, then attachment and detachment. Understand it clearly about this event. So, now because of extreme attachment, there is an emotional dependence on the body. Because of that emotional dependence on the body, your mind forget the information which you did not translate into experience that you are not the body. Now that knowledge starts sleeping in the presence of the impulsive mind, which is the master. You simply heard from me that you are not the body. You did not contemplate, you did not reflect on it, you did not practice it. It did not turn into an experiential understanding. That is why now you see emotional dependence. That emotional dependence is a very subtle, in-depth understanding of it. It comes through hundreds of hours of practice and hundreds of hours of contemplation and reflection. But once you reach to that point, ah, whatever happens to the body, you don't.
What?
Emotional dependence, now you see what is going to happen. Understand your own personality completely. So now you have an emotional dependence. When I have an emotional dependence, it creates a false I, that is ego. And that ego starts living in extreme selfishness. What is extreme selfishness? That I am the body. I'm the body. You solve this problem. Why I should not have anxiety and fear if there is a problem in the body? Because of this false I, you are making this statement. You are making this statement. Extreme selfishness. Now see, because of that extreme selfishness, what is the last point? The intellect is paralyzed completely. Whatever you have learned, one day I think you claimed that I have been learning from you for the last 2 years. It means I'm not a seeker. Intellect is paralyzed. In the paralysis of intellect, the knowledge that you have learned over the last 2.5 or 3 years, or take it 5 years, is already gone because your intellect is paralyzed. And in
So am I
that,
just wasting time?
I will come to that point also. Intellectual paralysis, then you start living in a delusion, and when you live in a delusion, you make these statements. And the last statement you made is also coming from a delusion. What is the last?
Well,
What is the
go
last
ahead.
statement you made? You made that it means it is wasting. Uh, our master says, let me give you, I think I gave you an example, but you did not contemplate on the lesson of the Buddha. I explained the 10 stages of the Buddha. Pick up the stage of the Buddha where he went to a Tantra master and he said, you have to follow a self discipline, you have to sleep on the floor, take one meal a day, 4 hours of practice every day, and he did 6 years of the practice. And then he met another master who help him to reach to the enlightenment, to the awakening. And it was just a couple of hours. Now put the same question. It means, have I wasted all those years? No. When we see the Buddha, because Buddha anyhow followed that self-discipline, he learned it again and again, and once that learning, who knows, the time comes I start contemplating, reflecting, all the knowledge relives in me and I change myself. But here, another problem, I don't know when I'm going to change. But when I follow a self-discipline, when I follow these simple principles, I know I am changing every day. It has been for 3-4 years. I told you a couple of times. I intellectually I read all my Upanishads in the Gita. So when my master was talking, I used to interrupt him. I said, I know it. Here is a verse. Here it means. My master tolerated me for almost 3 years. And one day he told me that I'm teaching you what is not written in the Gita and the Upanishad. I'm teaching you which comes from my own experience. And when I see you, there is a natural personalization of these principles only for you. I still remember that statement when he said, I'm not teaching, I'm teaching you that is not written in the Gita. Principle is the same, but I give you the interpretation which your mind can receive easily if you are receptive, if you are reflecting on it, if you are doing the practice. I have answered your last question. So sometime Buddha took 6 years. 6 years of the practice, and he did not get anything from the first master. Did he waste his time and effort in the practice?
No.
A little effort in the direction of self-discovery. No effort is wasted. Now it depends on you. You make a right choice, you follow, you inculcate that discipline, and you change from the day one.
Why? Like, I have a question. I don't know. You don't know me maybe you know me well, but like, I'm very consistent and disciplined with everything in my life, like my exercise, my diet, my relationship, my work, like very focused. But yet with this, I sometimes I blow it off. But yet I always look forward to talking to you, and I want to learn and I want to grow. But with practice, and I don't know why I'm that way, because I'm not that way with anything else. I'm really not, and it bothers me because you're not wrong, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm disappointed in myself for being better.
You are focused in professional, personal, maybe I would add family life. But I am not in the spiritual life. That is a very good point that you made. I am focused in the material world. Take it very simple, in a simple way. I am focused entirely in the material world. Material world means the physical body, relationship, you can take it, wealth or earning. You are honest, you already told me, and that I know the honesty is also there. Integrity is there. Integrity is there. And I'm answering you from the Gita. The way our masters have done, it is so beautiful. Our Krishna, the master in the Gita, says there are 4 types of seekers. There are 4 types of seekers. I have started creating models by which I can coach to the corporate sector. I had a couple of programs with the Google UK. So I'm planning that I can just start coaching those group people, but they want they want everything should be highly rationalized. So they asked me the question that what exactly is the model for your coaching. I said wait, just wait, and then I sent within 2 or 3 days I created a model. So come back. So Gita says that first there are 4 types of seekers. First, can I say that if I translate into English, the first type of the seekers are distressed. They are seekers. They are frustrated with them. You have already told me you are inconsistent, and then you ask the question that I don't know why I'm inconsistent, and well, it's your life. You should know that why you are, but anyhow. So distressed. So what the first type of the seeker is looking for? They are looking for, anything is there anything like a miracle that can help me in my spiritual life and can bring an end to all the fears and anxiety and duality. They are looking for a miracle. Miracle is nothing but a fancy, imagination. It is a projection. That is the first type of a seeker. So I am totally focused in my professional, social, and family life, but I take this spiritual life of a self-discovery casually because the mind somewhere is thinking of a miracle or fancies or projection that I have understood that I am not the body and now I can live happily. It is not happening. First type of the seeker. So, what I should do if I'm a first type of the seeker, I have to push myself, put the alarm, put the clock that I have to wake up at 6. Here is an audio file, I have to run it, I have to practice. If the mind says something, I will sit, not do anything but the practice. So I need in the first few weeks of an extreme effort, and after that, this crazy mind follows you. Now come to the second type of the seeker. Second type of the seeker, I can say enterpriser, entrepreneur. They are very intellectual. They are highly intelligent. They are looking for some spiritual thing to earn more wealth, to get more prestige, to have more recognition. I'm not I'm not making any decision which kind of a seeker you are, but I'm just explaining. The second type of the seeker is looking, can I meditate and which will help me to have more recognition, more appreciation, more wealth, more better sexual life, etc., etc. Because my goal is to get more from the material world. So second type of the seeker is not at all suffering from any anxiety, duality, conflict, etc. They are well placed, they are earning very good money, but they want to invest in spirituality to triple it, to quadruple. That is the second type of the seeker. Third type of the seeker, third type is known as explorer. Explorer. They are the real seeker. Why they are real seeker? They know, they have understood that there is a real self, and in order to realize and discover the real self, I have to put some amount of effort and self discipline the way. Even earning money, I have to follow certain discipline. I focus on the project and I see the profit and the loss the same way. The explorer is 100% clear that whatever the material life I'm living, I will continue to live, I will continue to balance, but my focus is on the real self. And whatever it takes, I will do it. That is the third type of the seeker. Who is explaining? Krishna. Don't take that I am explaining. I just talk about the teachings of the master. Now the fourth type of a seeker, I told you, my master told me, once a seeker, always a seeker. So the fourth type of a seeker have already understood, experienced, and knows. They live their spiritual enlightened life even while living in the material world. They have nothing to worry. And then out of that, couple of people become the teachers. They want to pass on to this knowledge which they have learned from the masters. Because why? Because they feel they owe me. My master tolerated me for 26 years, so I have to see whether I can tolerate also a lot of people whom I am teaching. So there are four types of seekers. I'm answering your question. So in the first category, anxiety, fear, frustration, duality is there. How to get rid of this duality? Anxiety, fear. I gave you a program, I gave you the knowledge, you did not contemplate and reflect, you are not practicing it, and you come back with the same problem in a different way, in varieties of ways. I may have a headache, or I may have a headache in the valley. The main problem is the same.
Yeah.
Problem is the same. So again, go back into the same understanding. Unexamined life. Animal life is unexamined. Yeah, in the afternoon I was looking at the Discovery Channel. wildebeest in Africa. So they follow the rain because wherever the rain takes place, so the grass grows and they eat it. So they remain healthy. A beautiful, I could see that. Now, there is a big barrier. There is a big river. When it's a rainy season, there is a heavy rain, and they have to, thousands of wildebeest has to cross the river. There is no option for them. Impulsive mind, habitual mind, nature has programmed their mind. But then there is a big danger.
Crocodile.
You're right. Crocodile catches them. So I could see that there were more than 100 wildebeest died. And then the rain, they follow the rain in the opposite direction. They have to cross the river again. So the commentator was saying this has been happening for the last thousands of years. That is the nature of unexamined mind. I learn it, I understand that if I do it, I will change. Even by listening to this knowledge, your mind calms down. You claim that I understand. What will happen if I practice? The wildebeest does not have an intellect. They do not have a choice. They have to follow the nature. They have to follow the instinct. I follow the instinct, it means I am not aware. So that is one story of this wildebeest. Another way to put at it, that I complain about myself. I know I have to do it and I don't do it. That is what you told me. You just told me that you are consistent, you are focused in your professional life, in your family or relations, in other things. You have an honesty, you have an integrity. Wonderful. Use the same traits here to be consistent. I don't have a time. I start looking at the TV. Instead of watching the TV, I should contemplate and reflect. To tell you frankly, I was coming from that mills, uh, driving, and my mind was saying that Om Namah Shivaya. It was just casual. It doesn't attract. Nothing attracts. So you go there, you buy something, that's okay. But you don't see the pleasure is outside. The pleasure is already inside. Mitesh was driving. So I was just sitting and I said, another day, beautiful day has passed. And you remain in the state because you live consciously. When you live conscious, you have a choice. Again, remember, the wildebeest does not have a choice. Because of the intellect, we have a choice. You already explained that you are consistent in everything, you are inconsistent here. So my intellect recognizes that I am consistent and I am inconsistent. Now ask the same intellect, what should I do? I have to be consistent. That is the choice. What it takes to be consistent. The way you fix the meeting with your clients, the way you fix the meeting with me and you appear at the same time, the same way your mind should be available to do the practice at a particular time without fail. That is the meaning of consistency. Another point that is also very important, the word consistency or its understanding, or you can say the consistency is the trait of the mind. Inconsistency is the trait of the animal mind. Make it choice. Wildebeest cannot understand, lion cannot understand. The other day I told you this lion, old lion became old and he had three lioness with 5 or 6 cubs, and two lion, well, young lion came and these two lion defeated the old one. What is the result if I'm not consistent? This is what I'm telling you. So these two young lions defeated the old one. It was a wonderful. I thank those cameramen who recorded the entire video. So the old lion was hurt, walking, falling down. He sat down. Then he saw the entire group walked little far away. So he also walked at a distance and he sat there. So the commentator said, it was a very sorry affair. Commentator said what he said. He said that now this old lion has to live like this because you cannot catch the prey. In the beginning, he was dependent on the lioness because all the lioness catches the prey and then he has to eat. But now he has to depend on what remains after the group has eaten. Impulsive mind does this to our life. That is why majority of people fail. And they live in that stress. They continue to live in the suffering. They continue to live in that suffering. I am not saying it is so simple to you wake up in the morning. Do you ever remember anything this beer guy has taught you?
Yeah.
And if you remember, then ask yourself what the beer guy is stressing on. I'm not saying that you wake up and you sit on the bed itself. And when I sit on the bed, I just watch, observe where the mind is going. I don't move the body. Why? Because if I move the body, that impulsive mind will again put me into the unexamined life, attachment, detachment, emotional dependence, intellectual paralysis will put me into the delusion. So I just sit. Only I'm saying hardly for 1 or 2 minutes. And you remember what I have told you that I have to do the practice, but the mind is thinking something. Let it think, but don't move the body. Keep on watching it. You are an observer. You have started the practice. To earn money, you have to drive, you have to talk to your employees, you have to follow the clients. Here I'm saying just sit down, observe, tell the mind I'm not listening to you. I'm just observing what crazy thoughts you are bringing in my mind. Once you are done, I will start the practice. That is the meaning of consistency. First step of consistency. If you claim, if you say that you remember what I have told you, so the moment you sit on the bed itself with eyes closed, and one thing that you don't allow the mind to trigger the body, you just sit calmly, you sit comfortably, you sit with the stillness that will help you to observe the very thought, feeling, and emotions. You'll be able to separate it. You simply tell, I'm saying, simply think. Mind, continue thinking, whether it's a bad morning or the worst morning, whether you are thinking of incident happened yesterday, please continue. I'm just observing you, I'm listening to you. But I'm not moving the body. You do it even for 2 minutes, that crazy mind, that inconsistent mind leaves you. And then again you continue to remember what I told you, or let me start the practice. It takes fraction of a millisecond to change the state of your mind. In order to reach to that fractional second, I have to follow a self-discipline. I have to follow a self-discipline. I did not have any session today, so I wake up at 4 and I said, my mind will be crazy. You have to focus. Another, if there is any distraction while listening and learning, you have to get rid of all those distractions also. So even when I woke up at 4, my mind said that why don't today there is no session. There is no session, so let me sit 1 hour more for meditation. I will continue. So I continued, and just after that I have a Kindle Scribe. You know the Kindle notebook.
Yeah.
So just on the bed itself, I wrote down, these are the beautiful reflections, and I could pass on to my students. So I wrote it down so that I should not forget it. And then I transferred into my computer and I made a note of it. This is what happens in the life of a seeker. Once a seeker, always a seeker. Once a seeker, always a seeker. Your mind is not running after any issue. Why? Last thing to understand. This world, this body, you cannot make this entire world in peace. You cannot keep this body in the state of well-being 24/7. Why? It is constantly changing. It has to show you many challenges. Many times it continues to live into that state of well-being, and then it changes its health, and the sickness are dynamic states. Once that understanding, you live with that understanding. The unexamined or the worst master, that is the mind, does not create any sense of attachment, detachment. It does not result into intellectual paralysis. And I told you again and again, Without self-discipline, this impulsive mind will paralyze your intellect. Where is the paralysis of intellect? The knowledge is sleeping now. That knowledge you won't ever remember. You won't even remember. That is what happened when you explained to me that I woke up and I remembered, then I started thinking whether I should go for a walk or whether I should do this thing or that thing. I didn't do anything. You told me.
Yeah.
Intellectual paralysis. This is what the delusion is. So knowledge is sleeping. So even whatever you have learned, I agree with you have not understood at the experiential level. I have to translate that into an experiential level, then only you will be able to remember, even if your mind paralyzes your intellect. So 1 second it is paralysis and your mind remembers, oh, this is what the knowledge is. Let me implement it. Let me do the practice.